Financial Aid Timeline webinar. I'd like to welcome you today. You'll have a great opportunity to help and to Vicki as we go through, explain to you exactly what it is you need to know from start to finish, from the moment your child enters high school all the way through to the point where they've decided where they want to go. My name is Eleanora Ferrante. I am the owner and coach at Square Peg Square Hole Coaching. I am a college coach and a career coach as well. Vicki, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Vicki Vollweiler. I'm the founder of College Financial Prep. I help families, primarily sophomore, junior, senior year, on the cost of college, help with finding those schools that are going to offer the most in merit aid, help families that need need-based aid find those opportunities as well, work with families on completing the FAFSA and CSS profile and determining what your EFC is, all things that you may not be familiar with yet. But hopefully you'll have a little bit of a greater understanding as tonight's presentation goes on. And then I help families through to the end of senior year with analyzing your financial awards that you receive from the schools, as well as filing appeals and discussing student loans at the so looking forward to meeting you. Hopefully you'll get great insight tonight, and we'll have Q&A at the end for anything that we don't cover.
So as you can see on your screen right now, there's my email and phone number as well as Vicki's. So please feel free to jot it down. If you have questions at the end, we'd be happy, that don't get answered during our program, be happy to for you later on. You will see that there's a space for Q&A. If you look at the bottom of your screens, Q&A will come up on the right. If you have any questions, feel free to put your questions in that space. And if we don't address them during, there will be time at the end for us to go back and answer any questions that might have come up. So by all means, let us know if you have things that you want to know that we'll make sure we can address. Also want to let you know that at the end of all this, we have a college timeline that covers both the financial aid as well as the college admissions process. If you're interested in receiving it, just send us your email. You can put it either in the chat or you can send it to us directly, and we'll make sure that we get that to you when this is all over. So with that, we'll get started. And we're going to start at the beginning. This is going to cover the whole high school from start to finish, and we'll start with freshman year. Freshman year is a chance for your child to explore, right? So what are the things they're interested in? What do they want to get involved with? We know that their class schedule is fairly well set. You don't have a lot of alternatives freshman year in terms of the classes that you're going to take, but you do have a lot of alternatives in terms of activity. Now's the time to go to those club fairs, see what's going on, and explore. It's also the time to see what kind of nonprofits are out there that you might be interested in working with, right? Because volunteer service, it's not just important for the college application, it's important for your growth and development. It's really good to give back to others and to understand what goes on in your community as a whole. Whether it's community-based things such as soup kitchens, you're helping the animals, it's a religious-based organization, or health-related field. There's so many different options for those of you who have kids who are Girl Scout or Boy Scout. Hold on, keep going with it, right? To get your Gold Award as a Girl Scout is amazing. To get your Eagle Scout is amazing. And it's the kind of thing that colleges are looking for. So at this time, a lot of kids start to drop off with some of the things they had before. I'll tell you, those are two things you definitely want to keep going with. But it's also a time for exploration, seeing what's out there, seeing what you want to get involved with. It's a time to start looking and seeing what fits for you. So if you're on vacation, I highly recommend driving through some college campuses. Nothing intense. We're not looking to get kids all crazy, but it's good for them to see what a college campus looks like, get a feel for who might be on campus. What's the kind of a day look like for these college students? Granted, I know today you can't do that, but fingers crossed, kind of the time fall comes around, we'll be able to get back on college campus and see everything that's happening, right? And to really start to explore. So we want to make sure that our kids have a chance and seeing what's going on. If your child is a performance artist, whether it be music, theater, dance, right? They sing. Now's also a good time to see what kind of activities are out there for them where they might be able to get into something a little bit more unique, maybe a chamber, maybe jazz, right, and start to explore. And lastly, freshman year, you want to really think about sophomore year. And I know it's hard to think ahead, but you want to think about your classes, right? And when you create your year, it's important to take the most rigorous classes that you can, but rigorous for your child. So some kids are great at the APs and some kids are not. So we don't want the kids struggling, but what we want is that they are challenging themselves, because colleges look for that. They want to make sure that your student is doing the best they can in the classes available. Now, I work with some students where AP classes, IB classes are not available. Not to worry if that's not there. Know that your school doesn't provide that. They just want you to do the best you can with what's there. Right? So really important to think about as you're looking to your class schedule and thinking about next year. So if you've got a freshman right now, you still have time to rework things, right? And just make sure that the schedule meets their needs and gives them everything they're looking for. But there's also a financial side to all this freshman year. Vicki?
So ninth grade, there isn't much to do in terms of filing like that, but obviously you should plan on the upcoming costs, saving money where possible. Also, freshman year is the time to think about how you might want your income to be reported. And, if you have opportunities to have it reported in one calendar year versus the next, do it while the child is still in freshman year. So December of freshman year, because the way the FAFSA forms work is that the children that are graduating high school in 2023, we're going to 2021 tax returns. So ideally, you want your 2021 income tax returns to be lower if possible. That's why I'm saying if you have the opportunity to put some money towards 2020 instead of 21, you may want to consider it. However, I'm going to say up front, like I always do to clients, make sure you speak with your accountant or your financial planner or your attorney, to make sure it benefits you in all areas. So let's move on to sophomore year. Eleanor?
So sophomore year, there's still a chance to keep exploring, right? So, the club fairs that your schools have, your students should go back and check them out again, because you don't know what's new for this year, right? People are always throwing in new clubs, new activities, so it's great to keep checking that out. It's also a time to start looking for those more select performance groups. Again, if your student plays an instrument, sings, dances, is in theater, right? Because this gives a chance for them to really hone in on some of the things they love, to get more experience with it, and to see if this is someplace where it's just someplace they want to dabble, or if it's someplace. So you want them to have those opportunities as much as possible to keep testing the waters. Right? Nothing is set in stone still as sophomores. It's just still an exploratory time. It's a good time to also increase the opportunities for volunteer experiences, right? So where do you go to find volunteer experience? Well, one place, your local library, right? Everybody's got community service that comes to the library, and I'll speak for the South Huntington Library. Right? We have a teen advisory board. Our kids do a lot of things through the library to help others. So it's a really good place for them to experience. You can also, though, check with your schools. Guidance counselors, you may have a career counselor in your school, the Honor Society advisor, all sorts of people will have opportunities for your students to get community service. And it's really important to do that. You should also check with your guidance counselors if you're getting community service to make sure it's tracked. A lot of schools will give credit on the high school transcript for community service. And while it might not seem like a big deal to do, if you don't have it on your transcript and everybody else, a red flag. Why do you not have it and everybody else does, right? So it's something you want to put there. You don't get credits for graduation with it, but it is noticed and people are aware of it. And there are also community service awards that go with that, presidential awards and or local awards that you will get because of your community service. For some students, the PSAT will happen in 10th grade, right? That's typically schools who allow their kids to do that if they are taking advanced math in 10th grade, because you need algebra. So you may be doing that as well. Come spring, now's a great time to take a practice ACT or SAT when it's not so much pressure on you. Check them out and see which one you want to take. We're all hearing about the colleges going test optional, and everybody say, oh, we won't have to take it. Not true. You still have to take it. The colleges are looking for them. Fingers crossed, in a couple more years, that will not be the case anymore, and they will really be looking more holistically at the application. But for honors program, for merit aid that Vicki was talking about, in order to get that, a lot of those test scores. Your kids don't have to take both, either the SAT or the ACT. If you prep for both, you're wasting a lot of time and resources. So you need to take a practice sophomore year in the spring and see what's good. You also want to keep driving through those college campuses, seeing what the kids like, what they're interested in. You can start to do virtual tours now. There are some great websites out there that encompass a number of schools, so you can kind of get a feel with one website. Campus Tours would be one of them, campustours.com, uvisit.com. So as well as going to the individual college websites, will give you a good feel for what are colleges looking like. And again, you're looking to create your class schedule for the following year. So junior year is a chance where you might start to get room to put in some electives. So what are the things you're interested in? I'm working with one student now who loves theater. That's his space. He wants to go into stage management. And his school offers theater as a class. So guess what he's taking, right? So that's one of his electives. I have other students who know they want to go pre-med or engineering. They're making sure they're taking additional class lines like anatomy or AP biology. Right? So what are the things that are important to your student, and make sure you're including them. Keep in mind, colleges want 3 to 4 years of science, 3 to 4 years of foreign language, right? So you want to make sure that those are still in their class schedule. Somebody just asked for the websites again, so a little more slowly. The first one is ecampustours.com. The second one is campustours.com. And the third one is uvisit.com. And again, if you give us your emails, we'll make sure that a list of all the resources that we talk about are sent to you in an email for all of this. So Vicki, what do we need to think about on the financial side sophomore year?
So sophomore year is very, very similar to freshman year. For sophomores, for the students graduating in 2022, your tax returns are going to be based off your 2020 income. So that's what you're going to be showing, using for FAFSA. It's always 2 years back. So this could possibly be great for anybody who's experienced any, I hate to put it like this, any downturn in 2020 may be a great benefit when you go to apply to schools for 2022, because assuming the family contribution, your EFC will likely be lower because it'll be based on 2020. So that's the good news for families right now. And then more will come next year. Eleanor?
Right, so the big year. This is the high stress year for our kids, right? And just so you know, I mean, I had 2 kids now. One's in grad school, one's in college. Junior year was crazy, absolutely crazy. Right? And Vicki can attest to the same thing. She's got one in college as well. And there's a lot of stress on our kids, and they think they need to do everything, and they need to do everything well, and they are just constantly piling more and more and more and more. They don't have to. Let's take a breath. They need to settle into those things that are most important to them. Right? A couple of clubs, if they're into sports, great, right? You don't have to be in every sport. You don't have to be president of every club. Colleges are looking for depth, right? It's fine to have breadth, and they have a lot of things, but they really want is depth in a couple of activities to show that those are things that are really important that you care about. And it doesn't really matter what that is. It could be anything from mathletes to soccer to the LGBT club to a community service club, whatever's important to them. Also important to remember that if your child has other responsibilities outside of the home, that's okay too, right? So if they're working, that's great, right? So they don't need to be in a lot of clubs if they're working. But if they have responsibilities at home, such as they have to babysit their younger siblings or take care of somebody, right? That's okay. And the colleges, there's space for you to put that on the application so the colleges can see that, right? So there's a lot of ways that the kids can show depth. It doesn't have to be a million things. It's great if they can take on some kind of leadership role, doesn't have anything and everything, but just to show you're a leader and you're getting involved. If you're in marching band, to become a rank leader is amazing, right? You can use that. You don't have to be the drum major. You can be the president of your club. You could be the treasurer of your club. You could be captain of a team. There's so many different ways to show leadership. And you can also do it outside by showing leadership within a community service organization. Right? Maybe there's no club that you're really interested in on campus. Start your own. High schools are always open to that, right? So it's finding what your niche is at junior year and really starting. This is also the time to start visiting local colleges, right? You want to start to see what the colleges offer. What are the majors that are there? What's the curriculum like? What do you really need to get into the schools? And what will you get out of the school, right? So is the school a good fit for you, as well as are you a good fit for the school? Right? And that's identifying trends in terms of what you like and don't like. So all those things are really important. Junior year, fall, you also take the PSAT, right? And some schools will offer practice ACT as well. ACT is nice because that's where a lot of national merit scholarships all come from that. And they offer them in different levels. They offer them for different reasons. So junior year, fall, there's a lot going on. Junior year, spring, we keep adding to it for the kids. Now's the time where you're taking your first ACT or SAT. Remember, one or the other, not both. It's when you are preparing for the APs or IBs, if that's what your school is doing. It's when you are really starting to think about, what am I going to do this summer? And start looking for some internships or volunteer work. You're creating your senior class schedule, right? So what are you going to take next year? And again, rigorous but appropriate is what we're looking for. And understanding what you're looking to do. If you're going to go into engineering, pre-med, science or based major, well, you need to take science and or engineering classes all the way through. You can't just stop, because the schools are going to look for that. They're going to look for physics. They're going to look for calculus, right? Calc over statistics. Even if you're going to talk over statistics, I don't know why. I think statistics would be more useful as a former math major, having done both, right? But with an MBA, so I know statistics is more useful there. But it's still the kind of thing you need to talk with your guidance counselors to make sure that you're taking the right classes at the right time. It's also the time to really build those relationships with your teachers, because we're going to look to them for letters of recommendation, 2 to 3 from your teachers, right? And you want a math or a science, you want an English or a social science, right, to give a nice mix. So all those pieces are really important in terms of the admission side, because a lot is starting to happen now in terms of the financial aid as well.
So junior year, spring especially, it's time to start thinking about your finances for college and creating a plan. So a lot of families don't really do this, but have you thought about how you're going to pay for college? Will you need to find money? Do you need need-based scholarships? Are you looking for merit scholarships? Do you know how much you have saved up, whether in a 529 plan, whether in your personal savings accounts? Do the kids have money saved up, or did a grandparent say that they'll help you out? It's time to really start putting those numbers together to see what's what and to make a plan. Also, do you know where to look for the merit scholarships? A lot of people don't, and actually, people talk about FastWeb and things like that to find scholarships online. Really, the most money is going to come from the schools, the colleges themselves. So it's important to find the colleges that are going to offer your child the most money. The child does not have to be a straight A student with a 1600 on the SATs. There are colleges that are going to offer merit money to all different types of students. Practically every student can find the right opportunity at the right school. Also something to consider, have you had a big change in your life? So for students that will be applying to schools, so say 2021 graduates, so rising seniors, you're going to be using your 2019 tax returns. Has there been a change since 2019? For instance, did you lose a job recently? Are you dealing with a separation, a divorce, a medical issue, a something that's caused a downturn? That's definitely something to take into consideration, and that will need to be addressed to again, help your family save money on the cost of college. Something else I'm going to say about that I truly believe is to include the children in the conversations. If your family can afford maximum what a state school is going to cost, whether or not they go to a state school, aid from a private school, but if that's the maximum your family can afford to spend, the children should be aware of that. That you should all be on the same page and communicate so you're all striving for the same goals. Otherwise, one person may be thinking that they're going to the most expensive school and another one may think it's just going to cause disharmony in the house. So try to stay on the same page with that. And then more will follow for senior year.
Right. And, senior year, there's a lot going on as well. This is the time of year where I'm working with my students, helping them to create a list of colleges to explore. Right? And as Vicki said, the financial piece is really important. I need to know that going into this, that these students are looking at, X number of dollars that they have available to them. Because I'm not going to pick a school for them to look at if I know they can't afford it. Right? Because it gets hopes up with the kids if they get in and they don't have the money to go there. Been there, done that. We'll not go there again. Right? So what you really want to do is understand the things that are important. So the financials are a big piece of it. Do they have the majors that you want? Is it the size of the school that you want? And remember, if your kid goes to a private school that's really small, my niece goes to one, her graduating class is going to be 70 kids. It's really small. So you can go to a liberal arts school of 2,000, and that's going to be a big school, right? But if you go to a school where the graduating class is, well, then a school of 2,000 is going to be small, right? So you have to know kind of what your parameters are and understand those pieces. You might be sure what you want to major in, but most kids these days double major. So what else does that school have to offer? And if nothing else is interesting, maybe that's not the school for you. Are the activities the kind of things that you want to be involved in? Is the political climate what you want to be involved in, right? I know kids who have gone off to very liberal schools only go, oh my goodness, I'm so conservative, what am I doing here, right? And sometimes it's good for you to go and explore that, right? To understand what's on the other side, to get your mind to be enlarged, right? And to see new viewpoints. And other people, it's really not their place. Do you want to take classes in religious ed or not, right? Because sometimes the Catholic schools or a religious-based school will have you taking religious-based classes. So a lot of things to think about. Identifying what's important is critical. If you haven't taken the ACT or SAT, I'm going to say that for my seniors right now. I have a couple of rising seniors who have not taken one of the standardized tests yet because they were canceled. So what do you do? The SAT is offering additional sessions in the fall. Again, we're hoping that really happens. The ACT just announced a couple of days ago that they were going to go to online as well as in person, and today they're pulling some of that back. Right, so every day something is changing. So if you have the capacity to take the test, you should. They're expecting it. That being said, the colleges know that not everybody is going to get to take the test. So even some of the Ivies, look, we want you to send them, but if you can't get to take the test, let's say the College Board ends up canceling the rest of the year and you didn't get to take it already because maybe you're just taking algebra now, right? If you're only taking algebra 2 now, you wouldn't have taken the test in the fall. The college is going to know that, and it's okay. Right? The schools are test optional. Most are not test blind. There's a big difference. Test blind, we don't look at your test scores even if you send them. Test optional is if you can, we want you, don't have to, it's your choice.
Can I jump in there? As far as the test optional and test blind, the schools that are going to be offering merit scholarships still do a lot of it based off of the test scores. If you can send them because, as again, they're test optional. They're not test blind. They're not saying we're not going to take anything into consideration. So send it if you have it.
Right.
because it'll possibly benefit you.
Right. It may also get you into the honors program at that school. Right. And there's a lot to be said for being you typically get priority in terms of scheduling. You get priority in terms of the teachers that you want and the classes that you want. A lot of times the classes are smaller in size, so you get to know your professors better and you have that better interaction. You get more opportunities for research, for internships, and they often do programs specific to the honors kids, which give them additional opportunities for meeting people, for just practicing their networking skills, all sorts of bonuses that go with that. And sometimes you get honors housing as well, which tends to be kind of nice.
Usually lots of merit
Right? So,
dollars.
lots of merit dollars and air conditioning if you're going south, right? So it's, something to remember as you're doing this. Summer of the senior year is also the time a lot of kids are working, internships, volunteering. That's great space for that because it's more things for your activities and to really expand who you are. You also want to spend the summer getting a head start on those applications, right? You want to write your essay. Most kids around here will use the Common App to apply to schools. It covers the East Coast, a few West Coast schools, a lot in the Midwest. There's also another application called the Coalition app, which tends to be more of the Southern schools, but a lot of schools are moving away from that into the Common App. Common App has a series of 6 questions that you're allowed to choose from to write your essay, and they range from, tell me something about yourself that you wouldn't be you without. What's a moment of growth or realization that you've had that's really changed you? What's an obstacle that you've overcome? What's a problem you want to solve? And how would you go about solving it? The essay really is a time for you to let the reader know who you are, what you can't tell necessarily by reading a transcript and an application, which is very black and white. It's really a chance to expand on your strengths and showcase who you are. I have all my kids create a marketing strategy. What is it about you that you want that reader to walk away with? And how do we make sure that comes across your essay, your activities, your application as a whole? So essay gets written in July. In August, we are now working on the applications themselves because they're all coming up. And by this point, for the schools that you want to apply to, right, you should know what's at least 5 or 6 of them at this point. You don't have to have narrowed them all down, right? But it's
Can I jump in here? So what's important to do from the financial side for this time between junior and senior year? Let's face it, okay, some families are going to spend whatever a college costs, but for those families that, finances are a concern and they want to look for merit scholarships, it's important to find those schools that are likely to offer the scholarships before you finalize the list and before you submit applications, because once you submit applications, it's too late. It's key to do the research now before you have the final list in place. If somebody needs help with that, that's part of what I do. But yeah, I definitely suggest researching the colleges, running the net price calculations, determining what those schools are going to cost. Mm-hmm. And then Eleanor can help with the rest.
Right, and making sure that it's a good fit for you academically. Do you want to be a big fish in a small pond? Do you want to be a small fish? Do you want to be under the radar? Right, so what's important to you? Do you need to be at the bottom and being able to see the people ahead of you because you need that competition? Or do you need to be the smartest in the room? Right? Understanding those pieces go a long way to helping you find the right college so that you're happy there for 4 years. Right?
The key is to find the best financial fit, the best academic, the best social fit. That's what we want for our children.
That'll help you be happy once you get there, right? If you are an artist, musician, a performer, now's a great time to also make sure your portfolio is pulled together. I've worked with some art students, and portfolios from school to school can vary. So if you are submitting one, it's really important to start getting everything pulled together now, because it's going to take time as you get to each of those applications to submit what they're looking for. It's really interesting just how different the schools are in terms of what they want, especially because some are art schools and some are schools that have art programs. Again, so, and if you're not going to be a performer when you get there or an artist, but you still want them to look at that, you still want to put together your portfolio at this time. Business students should be pulling together their resumes because those are going to need to be submitted as well with these applications. Right? So now we go into the fall of senior year, right? Hopefully you don't need to take the ACT or the SAT again. You might, that's okay. You know, with help, you've hopefully finalized your college list, so you're getting the financial, the social, and the academic fit that's right for you. Now you're writing supplemental essays. I want you to write additional essays besides the big one, typical ones. Why do you want to come to this school? Why are you interested in this major? Tell me something about you that I need to know, right? So all that's getting done now. You are getting ready to submit your applications, and you really want to do this a couple weeks before the deadline. Whether you go early decision, early action, or regular decision, you want to make sure you're in ahead of the deadline by 2 weeks. Early decision, when you apply, you have committed. If you get accepted, you are going to that school, no ifs, ands, or buts. Unless you have a financial issue at the end, right? But you are committing to that school. Early action, you're telling that school you're really interested, but you are not committing. You have until May 1st to make a decision as to whether or not you're going. Regular decision is typically the last of the due dates, and those schools will tell you by April 1st whether you've gotten in, and you have till May 1st to decide. So 3 ways to apply. It's really important to understand the difference between early decision and early action, because I know kids who have applied early decision by mistake and have committed themselves to a school. So you need to know the difference between those two. Right? You do everything 2 weeks before the deadline because you have to make sure your teacher recommendations are in. You have to make sure that your guidance department has enough time to send you transcripts. You have to make sure that you have sent your standardized test scores if you're submitting them. Right? So you need that extra time. And just in case something goes wrong, the year of Hurricane Sandy, nobody could get anything submitted because nobody had electricity. That was a problem, right? So, but the kids who had gotten in early were good to go. Right? So last year with the wildfires in California, a similar thing occurred. So there's a lot going on the admissions side, and there's also a lot going on the financial side in the fall.
So October 1st is the big date that you hear about senior year, and that's when the FAFSA form opens for the high school seniors to fill out to be used for their first year in college, freshman year. The FAFSA form looks at everything. It looks at your income, your assets, your child's income and assets. It does not look at your retirement accounts, and it does not look at the value of your home. But everything else is taken into account. Divorce situations are a little bit different, so it really depends on the individual situation. So I can't give complete guidance on that here. But that's FAFSA. And you open it October 1st. From the FAFSA form, it leads you into New York State TAP form. And FAFSA is for the government, like TAP is for New York State. So it's another government form, and it's a way to save another few dollars on the cost of college. You may also hear terms like CSS profile when your child begins applying to colleges. The CSS profile is another financial aid form. It's used by about 400 private institutions, give or take. There's also a couple of public schools on there. University of Michigan is on there, maybe 1 or 2 others, but primarily it's used by private schools. The difference between FAFSA and the CSS profile is required for every single school in the country. And when I say required, if you are applying for financial aid, every school uses FAFSA. Everyone has the option not to fill out FAFSA, but then you're not getting anything. The CSS profile is much more in depth than the FAFSA. It's not necessarily good, not necessarily bad, but they want a more holistic review of your finances. They do look at your retirement accounts. They do look if you own a home and the value. Some schools may even ask what type of cars you own. They just get a lot more. So let me back up a second. So let's talk about FAFSA. So FAFSA is the free application for student aid. I recommend clients fill it out, even if they think, no, I'm not going to qualify for anything. There's no reason for me to fill it out. So here are the reasons that I suggest to clients that they fill out the FAFSA form. One, even if you don't think you'll qualify, a lot of the schools, not 100%, but a lot of the schools use it for aid. So, even if you figure, oh, my student's going to a SUNY school and, we're not going to qualify for anything and why bother? The SUNY schools give out merit aid too. And even if it's 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, fill out the form and qualify for the money, because over 4 years, it's still a nice, nice drop of change. Another reason to fill out the FAFSA forms. With the FAFSA form, your student qualifies for up to a $5,500 student loan through the government. It's going to have the best rates. It doesn't, but you need to fill out the FAFSA form. And I mean, the family can earn, millions and millions of dollars, and the student will still qualify to receive this loan. So definitely fill it out. Also, if the child wants to apply for a work-study program, you need to fill out the FAFSA form. And work-study, a lot of people say, oh, my child's a freshman, why should I do that? Me personally, I think they're allowed to work study. The child learns time management skills. They have something to put on their resume. And really, when there's downtime in an office or wherever they're working, they're sitting there doing, and they're earning a paycheck every couple of weeks. So and they have spending money. So I think it's a win-win all around. And the last reason that I always say that families should fill out FAFSA forms is in the event that there is some sort of change in circumstances, whether somebody loses a job, whether there's, some horrific event in the family and there's loss of income, your form is already on file, and it's much easier to speak with the college directly and have possibly some adjustments made as to the cost. So to compare it to an insurance policy of sorts. So I always recommend that families do the FAFSA form. So the big names that you're going to be hearing about is FAFSA, CSS Profile, New York State TAP. Some schools will require verification, and that means that they're looking for you to provide to verify that the information you supplied is indeed accurate. So don't play games on forms. I do not recommend it. And that's senior year for fall.
So it's a lot of work on both the parent side and the child side. I remember filling out the CSS profile. I really wish I knew Vicki back then. Not a lot of fun, to be perfectly honest. And I'm good with numbers, and it was still confusing. There was a lot to be answered, and it took a lot of time. And it's important to do if you want the money, right? There's no other way around it for those schools that are requiring that one. But you're right, the FAFSA was a lot.
Actually, let me say this. If there is an issue, if anybody joining us is divorced or separated, an issue with a co-parent or non-custodial parent and supplying information, talk to me. There are ways to be strategic in which to apply to, and perhaps only pick FAFSA schools, make sure that you're not applying to CSS profile schools, or some combination of, but the key, no matter who the family is, who the student is to be strategic with your college selections, whether it be strictly for financial reasons, otherwise, but to make sure there are good reasons for the schools that you're choosing.
Right. So, as you're finishing up the fall of senior year, you're getting all your applications in. You're making sure that your test scores are in. This is a time where it's really important for the students to be on top of their emails. I know kids don't love emails, but that's what schools like to use. So it's part and parcel. That's what grown-ups do, right? We all use emails still. So it's really important to make sure that your kid is on their email. Kids I work with, I purposely work through mail, make them more cognizant of the fact that they have to be on there, and it gives them good practice in how to respond in their emails and to pay attention to them, right? It's a time where come January and you're finishing up your semester, you want to make sure that your mid-year reports are getting sent to all of your schools, because you have to have all that information. Colleges don't want just what happened before with your transcript. They want to know how you were doing senior year. So this is why we always say you can't get senioritis, because those schools want to make sure that you are continuing to do well in school. Kids who might not have done so great freshman year or sophomore year, but then you see this trend up, those are the kids that are applying regular decision to a lot of their schools. And if they can show that they're doing even better senior year, those colleges are going to want to see that because that's a trend, right? And it's a positive trend that's good for them, and it bodes well when they hit college. That's really important. Now's a great time to start filling out scholarship applications as well, right? So a lot of people will start to post things, and there are so many scholarships. I mean, Vicki's right. The big money comes from the schools, but the high schools, a lot of local places will offer scholarships, and a lot of the essays are similar. So as you start to write them, they're universal. You can get scholarships for being Italian. You can get scholarships for playing tennis. You can get scholarships for being left-handed. High schools, a lot of times the PTAs will offer scholarship money. It's not a lot, but heck, if it pays for a couple of books, it pays for a couple of books, right? So you don't want to throw that away as well.
Well, let me jump in there. If your child receives a scholarship, see if the money can go directly to your child's school, because sometimes they won't, what they call stack scholarships. So just be mindful.
Yeah, a lot of the local ones will go right to the kids. So it's a good note to make on that. So then if you've applied early decision, typically you have heard from your schools by December, January is the usual time frame. Again, early decision, I'm saying yes. If the school wants me, I'm going. You will also start hearing from your early action schools at this point. And some schools where you have applied regular decision may start to come in as well. Especially the Southern schools have earlier deadlines. If you want to go early action at Southern school, typically it's in October. So, you know, things happen faster down there. They're in a different time frame than we are. But you're going to start to get your acceptances, hopefully. A little bit after that, you will start to get the financial aid packages. They don't always come together. Occasionally they do. A lot of times it's a little bit of a delay from one to the next, right? So it's great to get your acceptances in the mail. Like, yes, I'm in. But you may not know the financial piece. But what if you get a wait list? A lot listed. It's important as soon as you get that wait list to say, I'm still interested, if you are, right? To get yourself back in that list, because you don't want to lose that opportunity. So you've gotten in, hopefully you've gotten the money, and maybe it's what you want, and maybe it's not the package you want. So Vicki, what do I do?
So when you start receiving the awards from all the various schools, it's important to line them up and try to compare apples to apples. Unfortunately, none of them come in a standardized format. It's not, the schools were supposed to make it simpler for people. It's still not so simple. But you do want to compare apples to apples and see what is the total cost. How much are they giving you in free money? How much are they expecting you to take out in loans? And sometimes the schools try to hide the amount that you really need. They'll just have this gap amount. And if you don't have the money in the bank, it's more in loans. So it's important to be mindful of those things. I work with clients doing this. I put together a spreadsheet and, we compare apples to apples and see what the bottom lines are for each school. And based on that information and based on the student and how they're doing and based on any updated financial circumstances for the family and, anything else that's going on, this is the time that we'd consider sending appeals to the school, based on those different situations and what might be happening. We may be comparing another offer from a school. We may be talking about, the financial situation. We may talk about something with the child that's wonderful that's been happening. So we'd want to highlight all of that. And ideally those appeals are going to come through. It's certainly not guaranteed, but it is definitely worth the effort. Because really, what's the worst that can happen? They'll say no, but it's certainly worth the effort. And then once you have the response from the appeal, and then it's time to make a decision and figure out exactly how much that school is going to cost you, and truly consider, think from it if you're going to need student loans.
And it's important to keep in mind, what's the long-term goal here? So if you're going to go to an undergraduate school and go right into a career after that, that's one picture. But if you know that you're going to need grad school, right? So I'm working with some students who are interested in psychology. You need grad school to become a psychiatrist. You can't just come out of college and start a career in psychology usually. So you need to go to grad school. So you got to keep that piece in mind, because it's a big financial picture that you're looking at. You're not just looking at 4 years necessarily. It's could be more to it. All the things that are important. So back, you have financial fit, you have social fit, you have academic fit. And once you've taken a look at those, analyzing what your criteria was for selecting those schools in the first place, going back and revisiting that to see which of my schools best meets my needs so that I can get the best possible education, the best possible price, and be the happiest while I'm doing it. That's the school you're going to put your deposit down. May 1st is the deadline for that, right? Colleges have to tell you by April 1st if you've been accepted. You have to tell them by May 1st if you're accepting them. Put down your deposit there. All sorts of emails are going to start coming to you. They're going to want you to sign up for orientations. They're going to want you to sign up for housing. They're going to want you to start thinking about your classes and your schedules. So there's going to be a ton of emails coming through. There's a lot of forms to fill out. There's the health forms, the insurance forms, the housing forms, all sorts of things are coming. Keep an eye out for them. Highly recommend that if you can get on their list as well as a parent that you do that. Some schools will allow that. You have to nag your kid and make sure you're on top of them so you see what comes through. It's time for them to make sure they're checking their portals from those schools because a lot of information goes directly to the portal. What I've noticed this past semester, because there's nobody in the office to generate the hard copy things, send me to my kids via email or portal. So in the past, my daughter would get a series of statements in the mail reminding her to pay the tuition. Didn't happen this time around, right? So portals are becoming more and more important. You have to make sure you are in them. And a lot of times they will give parents access to the portals through their own direct way in. So look for that and try and do that if you can.
And at the same time of year when you're getting all this information, it's also going to ask you when you accept and when you put down the deposit, if you want to accept student loans. You set the merit money and the free money, but just, if you don't want to accept the student loans, make sure that your child does not click those boxes.
Yeah, sometimes it's okay to look over their shoulder. This would be one of those. Right? So we want to open this up. We have a few minutes left. We want to open this up. If anybody has any questions, feel free. You can click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and you can put in any questions that you might have. There's a lot that goes on in the full year, right? And there's a lot that goes on from freshman year all the way forward. That's why, again, if you're interested in getting our timeline, please make sure you send us your email. You can put it right into the chat. I will, at the end of this, I will share my screen again so you can see our contact information. So I'm just looking to see if we have any questions from anyone at this point.
You see?
Yeah, so it looks like right now we've answered all the questions that have come in. Oh, here we go. When are the college due? A couple pieces here. So college applications depend on the school. If your kid wants to apply to a California school, University of California or Cal State, those are due the month of November. They give you 1 month. It's crazy. Most of the other schools, if you're in the South, early actions, they're typically due in October. Most early action, early decisions applications are due in November. Typically, regular decision applications are due anywhere from the end of December through February. Right? So for each school, if you're on the Common application, it will tell you the deadlines there, and every school on their website tells you the deadline. So it varies from school to school. And sometimes they have multiple levels. It gets kind of confusing. So I recommend a spreadsheet with all the different schools and the deadlines for everything, so you make sure you don't miss any of those. Financial aid deadlines, also some are universal and some can be a little different as well. Right? So some schools might have you put in some of their financial aid works, but the FAFSA when things open up on the same, and that's universal, correct, Vicki?
Yes, well, let me talk about that for a second. So FAFSA forms open up on October 1st. And as I said, sometimes they award merit money from there, or they'll award need-based aid by filling out the FAFSA form. So imagine all of the schools start out with a pot this big. The longer you wait, the pot gets smaller and smaller. So it's ideal to fill it out earlier rather than later. Don't wait till the end of senior year to first start filling out the FAFSA form.
No, early is good. on everything. Earlier is better. Vicki, here's a question for you. How do we go about finding those lesser known scholarships?
Oh gosh. I'll be candid. I don't even, I say find the big money from the schools. The lesser known scholarships, it's hard. I mean, I have on my website, I have a bunch of resources where you can go and look for the scholarships. It's collegeFinancialPrep.com/free money, I believe is what the page is named. And you can certainly, you're more than welcome to go through it and look for those scholarship opportunities, but it's not going to be anything in comparison to what you can find from the schools themselves.
Right. And there are some books that are out there. Peterson's got books. There are books that you can use and go through. It's a lot of work. The year my son graduated, one of the moms went through the book, and that kid had more scholarships than everybody had ever seen, but it was basically a job for her. But she had no alternative in her case. Let's see, next question. My son is average student, 85 unweighted. How would he fare applying if he ends up not being? Well, the good news is there are a lot of schools that are test optional. The number was about 1,100 last year, and that number is growing every single day. As of the other day, we were well over 1,200 schools, so the numbers are just jumping all the time. I will tell you, last year I worked with a student who did not do well on the SAT. So out of a total of 1,600, she basically got in the 800s, not so good, right, as a total score. So we did not send her SAT score to any of her schools. She got into 8 out of 10 of the ones she applied to, and they were good schools: St. John's, Iona, Purchase, right? So good schools, and she got offers of money, right, because of who she was, not that snapshot of data, right? And she was an average student, right? So there are plenty of schools out there. And one of the big trends right now is community college. Highly recommend. It's a great opportunity to explore, test and see what you want at a very reasonable price. I have 2 kids, as I mentioned before, that went to 2 different schools. My son went to Boston College with my money. My son was to go to Suffolk, and for $4,000, I can put her through an entire semester. She can take any class she wants. I can even feed my kid a semester's worth of food for $4,000 at Boston College, right? So a very different feel. So there are a lot of schools, I think sometimes get overlooked, but they are great schools. There's a school for everybody, and it's grades, SAT scores are just 2 pieces of the puzzle. Keep that in mind. How accurate do you feel Naviance is in helping determine which schools are matched in the SAT, et cetera? About Naviance is that it helps you look at schools relative to the kids in your school. So for instance, when my son was looking to go to Boston College, in the years preceding him, going back 10 years before that, they used to take a lot of kids, and a lot of kids would go. And then they would take a lot of kids, and less kids would go. And they stopped taking kids because nobody would go. It makes sense. They need their yields up, right? So the year he went, though, it told him BC was his #1 choice. So he had to put a lot of effort into getting to BC and making sure he was going to come if they accepted him, right? So Naviance gives you some really good information around that, and it will tell you how good a fit you are. It's as accurate as any of the other databases, whether you look at Big Future, you look at Princeton, you look at US News, it's as accurate as those. All right, Vicki, this is a question for you. Our financial situation will change this year versus our 2019 tax returns due to spouse going on disability. When will we be able to change the FAFSA for the 2021 year?
Okay, wait a second. So you can't change the FAFSA. You're gonna not. Did I hear this right? So 2019, and then it changed in 2020?
Correct.
Okay, so for 2021, you're still obligated to use the 2019 data. What will happen, you adjust things based on appeals. So it's a special circumstance, and it has to be handled as such. So it's not as simple. I mean, the good news is then the following year, we'll be using accurate data based on the disability. But for freshman year, it will be a little funky, and extra work will need to be done to get it handled appropriately.
Do you think colleges may ease up on their tests, their ACT and SAT requirements, given that College Board canceled tests in spring. My son hasn't taken it even though he was scheduled to. So the answer is I've been on more webinars in the past couple months than anybody should be on, specifically with each of the schools. And they range from Tufts and GW to Rice and University of Michigan. I'm really trying to get a good feel for what everybody's doing, especially the schools that are going test optional for the first time. What a lot of them are talking about is having to retrain their college admissions officers in order to be able to read these applications more holistically. It's different for them, right? Because for a lot of schools, Stony Brook is notorious for this, right? You have a certain GPA, you get money, right? That's that simple. If you're ranked in the top X percentage, you get this, and if you're ranked here, you get this. I had a student last year apply to UMass. He got in, and he got a little bit of money, and then he retook the SAT and scored higher, and also now he was in the honors college with more money. Miraculous, how that happened? So it's a retraining for admissions officers to read in more of a test line way, right? You have to understand that you might not be sending your scores not just because it's lower than the mid-range, but because you honestly couldn't take it. And if these are students that I'm working with who do not have the opportunity to take the test, I'm making sure that we write that on the application, that it's crystal clear. We're not sending the score because it was low. We are not sending it because they didn't get to take it. You're saying we should do applications in summerish before senior year, but the college my child is now interested in says their apps are due between January 15th and March 1st, which is happening, let's say, before Labor Day, before senior year starts. So the answer is earlier is never bad. Right? So Vicki's point before, you get money, right? There's only a limited amount of pool of money, so the sooner your application is in, the better it is for you. Penn State used to say it was rolling admission, which meant basically anytime you want to put it in, feel free. But honestly, if it wasn't in by November 1st, you weren't getting in and you weren't getting money, right? So earlier is always better. Earlier as long as it's done well. And you need to understand if your child is on a progression of trending better, you want to apply with their senior year scores, which means regular decision. You can still apply earlier in the process, but you want to use the right application deadline for them. So, oh, and hi, Kristen Tim. Is there anybody else who has some questions for us? I'm green again. So you can see our information.
Okay, and definitely share your email addresses if you want us to send you our timeline and any other resources we were discussing.
Right. And just so you know, like, Vicki and I have a lot of different services that we offer. We do a lot of these free webinars for people just because we think it's really important to get the education out there. That's a major piece of what we do. What we also do, though, is, you know, we have one-on-one services, we have groups that we are offering. So there's a lot of different ways to get services through us that might be able to help you, you know, and obviously the free ones are here for you at any time. We will share our link to this webinar. So if you've missed anything, you'll be able to come back and see it again. But keep in mind that there are plenty of good things that are, that we are there for you.
Was there one more question?
No, I thought there was, but there isn't. So with that, to say goodbye because it is now 8:01 and start on time, end on time. We want to be conscious of your time. We thank you for joining us today. We will leave everything open for a few minutes, so if you want to send us your email, that would be great. And we look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.